Welcome to the Played Out, Wait Out show. Another Sunday, another show. Man, what a game we had last night with the disappointing loss against the Ole Miss Rebels. And today we have not only the usual Lindsey Mayo and Wyatt Morrison, but also a good friend of mine, big UT fan, is Derek Bowers. Derek, thanks for joining us. Taking time from your picnic.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
All right, man. Starting out, man. The energy was electric. I have not seen Knoxville Neyland Stadium bumping like that in a long time. I kind of wish I was there. But guys, what do y'all think about the energy that we saw last night?
Oh no, I think you hit it on. I think you hit the nail on the head, Jesse. I mean, that it was nice to see Neyland back to what it has been in the past. Neyland was rocking, going crazy and stuff. I think the crowd helped out a lot. It was exciting to see people get up for Tennessee football because I feel like we hadn't had that since like 2016 was probably the last time we had even something close to what we saw last night.
Something close, right? I agree. Totally agree. Lindsey, what was your thoughts on the environment? I know we're going to get a little bit more into the aftermath, I guess.
I'm with Wyatt. I couldn't agree more. The atmosphere of the stadium was electric. Obviously the team fed off of it. It absolutely put Ole Miss in a few difficult situations. They struggled a little bit, especially until third down. But in first and second down, even it was as loud as third down. It was really good to hear. It's good to see UT show support. Like Wyatt said, it's been many years.
And like I feel like I heard the commentator talk about Al Wilson. He looked over to somebody and said, "This is the way it's supposed to be." I couldn't agree more. I guess my next question is, man, what was y'all's thoughts on the or what were your thoughts on the officiating last night? Was it just terribly bad? I mean, or if that's, I don't know. What was y'all's thoughts on that?
I mean, from that scoop and score that call back for forward progress. I mean, I've never in my life seen a forward progress rule like that. I mean, I feel like that changed the energy of the game in the first half. Mm-hmm. What I hate about everything is after everything that transpired, SEC is not going to have to. They can put this issue of that scoop and score stuff, all the players faking injuries. They can put that on the burner and strictly look at Tennessee's actions of throwing stuff. And so that horrible officiating probably won't even get addressed because because they have a scapegoat because of the way the fans reacted. Yep.
And Lindsey, what was your thoughts on that? On the call? I mean,
yeah, no, so I watched it again this morning, and you would never convince me that he wasn't trying the Statue of Liberty play or that he thought a whistle was blown. One of the two. That wasn't forward progress. He was Matt Corral was the only person that stopped on the field.
And I guess
it was a fumble. It was a fumble. It was returned. It should have been scored. The officiating the rest of the way, it was. It's pretty poor. We definitely have to do something about the players falling down, and being injured, just to slow Tennessee down. I know that there's not much they can do on the field about it, but like Wyatt said, all that's going to get swept under the rug just because of the fans' behavior in the fourth quarter.
And going back to that play, was it not just me, but wouldn't one of the I don't know what they call them. One of the referees was actually following him to the end zone. So clearly he didn't hear a whistle either, right? I mean, so my thing is like, I don't get where they get forward progress was blah blah or stopped, yada yada yada. If he sat there and followed the touchdown, I mean, that is, like you said, that's pretty egregious. I bet, Derek, what was your thoughts? Do you have anything to say about that super score? Everybody wants to talk about that.
Oh, 100%. I thought for sure that Corral was tucking the ball away to try to hide for like a delay throw, and you can't convince me otherwise. And you already mentioned the ref running with him. The ref obviously, he followed Barron all the way to the end zone. So if there was doubt, he would have called the play off right then and there. But he chased him all the way down there. So, and as far as the injuries, yeah, those guys. You can't convince me that is the most egregious. I have a friend that's a Kentucky fan, and he tried to say, "Well, you all do the same thing." I was like, the difference between what Ole Miss was doing and what happened to that kid late in the game the kid was already limping and he was trying to get to the sidelines, and the coaches are like, they're about to snap the ball, get back over there, and he couldn't. So then they said it hit the ground. That's different, in my opinion, than the guys that are sitting there high-fiving after a big tackle. Then they realize Hooker's bringing them to the line of scrimmage, and they're like, oh, crap. And then they go down and like a blade of grass just tore their knee up.
Right.
That's different. That's trying to stop tempo.
Right. So here's my question to that. I guess we're still on that same line of thought. Man, I know everybody says you got to do something, but what do you do? Because here's my thing is, now they say football is a game of life, right? And there's also a coin saying, what all's fair in love and war, right? And I mean, now football is also a game of war. So this whole tempo thing was a way to get a cheap edge, right? And so my question is now the way to the for every action there's a reaction. The reaction is that, hey, start falling down so we can slow it down. So my question is, how do you fix it? I mean, just y'all's opinion. Does anybody, Derek, you have an opinion on how to stop it? Because I don't.
I heard the commentator's decision or what he thought, but I've personally, since Chip Kelly and them started this whole deal, with the up tempo, and then the Pac-12 defenses were flopping. Stanford did it horribly one year to Oregon. I've always thought not necessarily make them sit for the whole series, but give them a 10-yard penalty if that player re-enters on that drive, because one, that gives the coach a decision. Okay, maybe Matt Corral goes out, but I need him back, so I'm willing to give up that 10 yards. But if he doesn't think he can give it up, then hey, sorry, bud, you said you were injured. You got to sit the rest of the drive. I can't afford a 10-yard penalty.
Man, you know what? I like it, Derek. Good thinking. Lindsey, you got any thoughts on that question?
Yeah, no, like Derek said, the commentator's decision or his opinion to take the player out for the rest of the series, I'm not sure how effective that would be. I mean, obviously it would work, but you do have legit injuries. Matt Corral, he went out for a play, and I think
it was legit, definitely
injured. Yeah,
definitely.
So it happens. You definitely have to do something though. When when the play's over and everybody's, unpiling, if you're left on the bottom there, that's one thing. But if the ball is about 5 seconds from being snapped, and like Derek said earlier, you get taken out by a blade of grass or by the 30-yard line and you just fall down.
Right.
Yeah, maybe then you stay out for the rest of the series.
Okay.
Or maybe your second time you stay out. But something's going to have to be done. I don't really have a great solution, Jesse.
I mean, I was just trying to hear opinions because I really don't know how the whole tempo in itself is kind of, for the lack of better words, cheesy to me. But again, it's a competitive edge that these teams that had less talent needed to get in order to get some victories. So, hey, all's fair in love and war, right? And football is a game of war. Why? Did you have anything to add to that question?
Yeah, I think the good thing about taking care of the flopping issue and stuff is I think it's always going to be obvious because, like, a lot of times players, like, they'll get confused and they'll look to a coach telling them to go down and stuff. And so then you're saying, well, a coach will start teaching these kids when to flop. I don't know how much time a coach is going to waste in practice teaching the kid how to flop and stuff.
And which player to flop? I'm sorry.
Yeah, which player to flop and everything. I don't see a coach seeing that as very important unless it just became huge. So, like, right now, I think it's pretty obvious to tell when someone's flopping. I mean, Kiffin's got that little smirk over on his face the whole night when they were doing it and everything. So right now it's obvious. It just depends on how much this evolves and how good players get at flopping and what time they do it and stuff.
Right.
Because like Lindsey said, there's always going to be legit injuries, and
right, very much so.
You can never tell a kid they're not hurt.
Right.
You're not going to be able to.
Right.
The biggest one I thought was the number 7 from Ole Miss that had got a couple, sacks, tackle for losses or whatever.
Right.
One time particularly that caught my eye where he made a big play, made the tackle, started dapping up his teammates. Well, then they're kind of like, hey, get back to the line. They're getting ready to snap. And all of a sudden he just looks up and then goes straight to the ground. Yep. I'm like, man, you were fine. You were celebrating.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Man, okay, let's go on. Moving on. My question is, man, I feel like Josh Heupel really called a bad game. And again, I'm not trying to jump on him, Everybody has a bad game, man. But to me, I don't know why he was running. I'm going to call it inside zone. Again, that's basically the typical modern-day dive out of the shotgun. I mean, it was just getting stuffed in the second half. Now, I realize we've had a lot of injuries and a lot of departures on the offensive line. I feel like Kevin told me that we at one time we were playing a walk-on. And so, but was it just me, or Lindsey, what was your thoughts on the play calling on the offensive side of the ball? How did you feel about it walking away?
Well, last night as I was watching the game, I probably would have agreed with you. And then watching it again this morning, there were a few issues. First, Cade Mays going out with Cooper Mays already being out. That absolutely hurt us.
Right.
Their defensive line could send 3 and almost get pressure on Hooker. Secondly, I don't think I'm saying anything that the world doesn't know here, but Hendon Hooker struggles versus zone defense. And they dropped 8, and he couldn't find a spot for the ball. There was no rhythm, and every offensive play caller has to get into a rhythm. They didn't establish the run game effectively enough. Anytime they would get any forward momentum, Ole Miss would go down, or we would have a negative play. I think Heupel did about as good as he could. I think Lane Kiffin prepared a little bit better. He may have outcoached Heupel. His defensive coordinator may have outcoached Heupel on offensive play calling. But, with what we have, and, I heard the same thing about playing a walk-on. I mean, that's amazing. It's amazing that we could even compete with a ranked team like that. And we're 15, 20 yards away from winning.
Right. I mean, and that would have been a hard catch for Tillman to get prior to, we're going to talk about that later, the last play of the game. But, like you said, we're very close to winning that game. Why? You got anything to add to that question? I mean, what was your thoughts on the offensive play calling on the offensive play calling last night?
Yeah, I thought when Cade went down, I understand they were trying to establish the run game because, Hooker just had no time in the first half to throw the ball. It was like if he was throwing the ball, he was always under pressure and stuff. So I think Heupel was trying to establish the run game. And just, like Lindsey said, with the players going down, we couldn't get it established, couldn't get momentum going.
Mm-hmm.
But it all goes back to what we have, the offensive line we have. We have a stud offensive line. I think you see a lot more points out of us in the first half when Hooker's got a little bit more time to throw the ball. So first half I was upset with, but I think we made adjustments in the second half, and I thought second half I did a good job locker room making adjustments and stuff. Not his best game, not the greatest game I've ever seen, but I think if Jeremy Pruitt's our head coach, we score maybe 6 points last night. So
there's no doubt about that. Now I'm not trying to look a gift horse in the mouth, as they say, but at the same time, I was disappointed. Derek, what was your thoughts on the offensive play calling or performance on that side of the ball?
First off, I think Small is a great running back, but for what we were trying to do and where we could hurt Ole Miss, I think he would have hit that hole faster, and he would have moved the chains quite a bit more in the first half. But the other thing that really bothered me about the actual coach's play calling was when it got into second and long, and I'm not talking about 2nd and 10. I'm talking about where we took a penalty or a sack, and then he's trying to force Small up the middle. It's like, dude, you've got to try to advance the ball down the field. And again, you said that last play of the game, the one before that with the Warren, if it wasn't 4th and 24 or whatever, if you tried to make it 4th and 13, but instead that second play call, I think it was get down where he pushed Small and Small got nothing. I'm like, what makes you think to call that there in that situation? I get a delay and a draw sometimes work for you, but in that case, you have to advance the ball. You're trying to get your only shot is to get it in the end zone. You can't get it in field goal range to win this game.
Right. Man, let's go to the defensive side of the ball, man. Defensive side of the ball for Tennessee. I'm very high on the coaching on that side. I think Tim Banks did a great job. He has done a great job this year. Last night, man, what was your thoughts? I'm going to speak for myself, man. I feel like after the 3 games that we have lost, man, the quarterback, now it's hard to cover everything, right? It's 11 on 11 football, essentially, in today's kind of football. But that has really been the kryptonite in the 3 losses that we've had. Jones went for over 140, right? I believe, and I know we went for over 130. I don't remember what Pickett did or whatever his name is at Pitt, but I know he picked up crucial third downs throughout the whole game. And last night, man, we got absolutely torched, over 200 yards by this guy. I mean, and he's a very good athlete. I don't think he's 200 yards worthy. It took him, I feel like, I mean, I guess criticizing to a degree, man. It looks to me like he doesn't have a built-in package to really address the mobile quarterback, because it took too long for them to halfway. I noticed that they had 4 down linemen for the vast majority of the game, and then in the fourth quarter or maybe late third, that he finally started to only have 3 down linemen, and he was doing what Arkansas and what Ole Miss does. I mean, they'll go drop back and package, but anytime you see this guy starting to roll, that's basically your spy. I mean, your spy guy, and they'll come down and crash and make the play. My question to y'all is, what was your thoughts on? But that being said, let me be positive a little bit. Man, Ole Miss ran 61 plays, I believe, in the first half on the offensive side. I thought, man, it's going to be a blowout in the second half. That's what I thought, just because we don't have any depth. They already ran 61 plays. 20 years ago? That would have been the whole game. Man, we're about to get railroaded, is what I was thinking. But man, those guys came back, and their heart. It was really amazing to see that those guys they made stops when they had to, all the way into the fourth quarter. My question: what was your thoughts on the defense of the side, Wyatt?
There were some plays where I thought it was third down. Honestly, third down kind of long sometimes. And we do everything, have him covered. And all of a sudden, like you said, Corral would scramble out and he'd run for like 15 yards. Like, we did everything right. If we would have had a spy on him or something, we could have been out, had a few more possessions, I think, help us win the game. But I think they sort of figured it out. And like you said, Jesse, the heart that Tennessee played with, even on the defensive side, I can't remember the last time I saw a quarterback play with the heart that Hendon Hooker played with last night. Even, I know we're talking about defense, but I just think the whole team has fully bought into what their coaches are preaching. And I mean, it's exciting to watch right now. It really is. Man,
absolutely. I mean, very, very impressive. Lindsey, what you got to say about that? Anything?
Well, outside of Corral, rushing for, more yards than half the SEC did yesterday, every other play, offensive, his passing, the tailback rushing numbers, they were all poor. The only thing they could do well was rush with Corral. And to White's point, I thought maybe putting a spy up there would have been, a better call. But I absolutely agree with you, Jesse. They don't have a package to address that, because in the fourth quarter, they did put, Jeremy Banks had a rough night, bless his heart. I mean, but those guys, as y'all alluded to, they with the guys that transferred and Crouch and toe-to-toe. I mean, if we would have the team that we had last year, there's no telling, what limits we could reach this year. But it was frustrating to sit back there, because you knew what he was going to do the entire time. You knew he was on, even like Wyatt said, 3rd and 17. He's running and getting a first down. We put some spies up there in the fourth quarter, and it still didn't matter. He was such a good athlete, and that one play call where they faked the draw up the center, and then the running back's the blocker, and Corral runs right behind him. I mean, you'd really have to sacrifice a lot of defensive players. I agree with you, Jesse. I just don't think we have the package or maybe the players to cover it right now.
Well, to go along with y'all's statement, we've got former Tennessee Volunteer Bill Cole, who had to touch on that. He said, we missed enough tackles last night to last the season. So I think that goes right along with what Lindsey was saying. Because, again, they didn't if you're sitting there letting dude run every single time, well.
Right. Well, thank you, Mr. Cole. We appreciate that comment. And obviously, for those watching, please comment. We'd like to hear what you have to say. Derek, did you want, just since we're talking about defense, I mean, what was your thoughts on the defensive side of the ball, good and bad?
Oh, man. If people thought that 3rd and Chavis was predictable, I thought we were so predictable in that, like, it felt like a video game, like way back in those days when you used to dominate people, Jesse, when – you're sitting there, it's like if you're playing the computer and all you have to do is like send a deep route, and then like once the receivers and secondary are deep down the field, then the QB scramble. It was like every time on 3rd down, it was like, why are we not sending somebody at this guy? Like, because 3 seconds in, he's going to take off and we ain't got nobody because they're all 20 yards downfield. And every time he'd get over there and get 7 to 15, 20, 30 yards, whatever he had to get, and get right to the stick and get out of bounds every time.
Right. I mean, and earlier in this show, we were talking about rule changes with flopping, yada, yada, yada. My thing is, as much as I do like the RPOs that have brought along the new age of football to a degree, I do feel like, man, they need to change the rules as far as 3 yards down the field. I know in professional football it's 1. I don't know if we need to go that far as far as college football, but I feel like 2, because really when you're giving 3, you're actually letting 4 and 5 go sometimes. I mean, they'll catch 5 sometimes, but man, they're letting 4 go a lot. And at that point, man, that just puts such a bind on your defense, man. I mean, you have to cover everything. Everything, every inch of the field. Somebody was talking about Banks. I don't think he's the guy to spy with Corral, because Corral has a lot of wiggle, man. He showed that last night. I feel like they need to should have put a safety over there with him, because he's not that. Banks plays hard. He's done a fairly good job besides his personal fouls that he loves to get. I'm surprised he didn't get one last night. But I don't feel like he's not that guy that just go and get Corral, go lock him up. Go ahead, Wyatt.
I was going to say Jeremy Banks spying a quarterback as well. That is also targeting personal foul waiting to happen. Just coming in and I love the way he plays, but having him on the quarterback, I can just see him right now just diving straight into full on spearing him, getting kicked out of the game and hurting the team. So.
Right. I must be in the minority. I think Jeremy Banks has played out of his mind this year. To be a converted running back, to learn the position as fast as he has, he's been burnt just a few times, but boy, he's made some really good plays. Yeah, the personal fouls have got to go, but look at the penalties that happened at the beginning of the year compared to now. I think Heupel's, as weeks go on, coaching these guys to be the player he wants them to be, and it's showing up on the field.
Oh, absolutely. Now, for clarity, I'm not saying that he did a bad job. I mean, I feel like Jeremy Banks has done a great job altogether. But, even though he's lost, it looks to me like he's lost a lot of weight compared to what they were trying to bulk him up the last previous coaching staff. He's done a good job. But, Corral's got a lot of wiggle, man. I feel like you just have to have at least a safety to go get him. That's all I was saying. I do feel like he's done a great job throughout the year. So my thing is, we've kind of alluded. I mean, what was y'all's thoughts on? Were y'all embarrassed to be Tennessee fans, with a minute left in the game, or what was y'all thoughts on that? We haven't really talked about that.
It doesn't matter where you go, what stadium you go to. That's happened at every stadium in the country. It was on national television. It lasted 30 minutes. But the guy that hit Kiffin with a golf ball, if you're watching and you have any eligibility left, if you can report tomorrow, because that was an unbelievable throw that you made, maybe the best throw of the night. Yeah, it happens. It's disappointing to see. I think the announcers made it, a lot more than what it should have been, but I'm never embarrassed to be a Tennessee fan. I hate that our recruits see that, because the way you beat Ole Miss is by recruiting. And if recruits are sitting at home watching this, that doesn't bode well for UT athletic program. But other than that, it happens everywhere you go. You hate to see it.
You definitely hate to see it. Derek, what's your thoughts? What was you thinking? What were you thinking?
No, I wasn't embarrassed. It was a bad look, 100%. Throwing stuff on the field, but before I've been at UT games, like the basketball game where that's one thing I think they could have done better, is been quicker to have Heupel or somebody get on a mic and say, hey guys, you got to stop this. Because at basketball games, I've been in a game with Buzz Peterson and Bruce Pearl where they had to be like, hey, let's hone this in, guys. You got to stop throwing this stuff on the court. And then the students are going to listen to the head coach. They may not listen to some stadium announcer, but they're going to listen to the head guy. But I wasn't embarrassed because, for recruits and things, that just shows passion. Do they want to go to Vanderbilt where there's 200 people in the stands and they're usually the opposing fan base?
But they have a lot of class, though. I'm sorry to interrupt you. They have a lot of class. Go ahead, Derek. I'm sorry. Class. Yeah.
But they're also in last always. So,
is that almost synonymous with being? Is that almost synonymous with being classy, right? Coming in last.
Graceful losers. We've been there, under the Dooley years and things. We're finding our way out of this hole. But it's not how you ideally want to end a game, but at least the fans showed that, hey, you know, this poor refereeing and what they saw on the field was despicable, and they got somebody's attention. Maybe they could have chose a different way, but I don't know how. This has been brewing since January 12th, 2010. We can all agree if this was next week against Alabama or whoever,
right,
this doesn't happen. But because it was Lane Kiffin,
right,
and he threw those barbs at us all week, you know, it was like, hey, we've been waiting for this moment, and the fans just went ballistic.
And like you said, it was a combination of all. It was just the perfect recipe, right? I mean, the perfect storm, because like you said, I mean, it was bad officiating. They felt cheated. I know a lot of the fans felt cheated with the spot. The spot was bad. I don't think we would have made the first down. Going to the Warren play that y'all were talking about earlier, I don't think we would have should have made the first down. But it was a bad spot. It was like a yard short when it should have been, I mean, maybe a half a foot or something like that. But why? I mean, did you talk about that a little bit, or did I already ask you?
No, so my two things are with it. I've when I was I think it was my junior year at UT, I went to South Carolina. Me and my friends, we had beer poured on us full beers poured on us by South Carolina a little bit. This kind of stuff's been going on everywhere. This is just the first time the national television saw it on public display. Acts like doing this. My brother, when he was a student at Mississippi State, he had Georgia fans doing stuff to them. This kind of stuff happens every university. I mean, LSU fans tried to flip an opposing team's bus one year. I mean, the Tumors Corner getting poisoned. These acts, but crazy acts by fans, don't define every fan in the fan base.
Right.
Secondly, to me, Greg Sankey has no one to blame for himself, because SEC officiating has been atrocious, and he never addresses any of the issues going on. And now the strip won't be reviewed. That'll be put on the back burner. Then also, why is a referee that's 30 yards behind the play even making the call on the spot of the foul?
I instantly noticed that. I'm sorry, why?
Yeah. And my thing is, Greg Sankey, he never addresses these issues for any team in the SEC. And eventually, you know, going back to 2010, fans have a breaking point eventually. And the fact that the students showed the breaking point, to me, does not embarrass me at all. It just shows that you got a bunch of dumb college kids out there that were drunk and didn't care what they did.
Mm-hmm. Right, I totally agree. Speaking of dumb college kids, man, what y'all thought on just for Matt Corral? Is he not like my friend Ian says? Is he not off-putting? I mean, he just seems like he's annoying. Even just watching his body language on the sideline and all. I'm like, on one hand, I say it'd be nice for an Ole Miss player to win the Heisman. On the other hand, I'm like, he just seems like a little punk. I cannot stand that guy. Man, I mean, go ahead.
If he wins the Heisman, this will be the first time I think that the Heisman should be given to the play calling of the coach, because I think Matt Corral's got to be the worst Heisman in the history of. I'd have to go back and review the past Heisman winners, but I think he might be the worst Heisman winner. If he wins the Heisman. I think it's purely Kiffin's play calling while he's doing. I just don't think he's that typical Heisman quarterback. I think if you put him on any other team that struggles with play calling, like if he was under Jeremy Pruitt team last year, I think we've never heard of the kid.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mayo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I absolutely couldn't agree more there. You know, Corral and Kiffin are two peas in a pod. You know, they kind of deserve each other. Yeah, he's a talented quarterback, but yeah, it's amazing that he seems to be the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. There's a guy named Kenneth Walker Jr. who nobody's heard of, and you're not going to hear of. That's who deserves the Heisman Trophy this year. Google him, search him, and you'll see real fast. But yeah, it looks like Matt Corral is the front runner for it. Yeah, he's a little arrogant. I agree, he's a little arrogant, but you know, sometimes you don't mind that in a player, and sometimes they can pull it off. And last night he pulled it off.
Man, he did. I mean, he definitely carried the team. Go ahead, Brad. You got a comment?
Yeah, well, actually, Bill chimed in. First of all, he wanted to state that he was very embarrassed for the students' behavior. It does not matter why. It should not happen. I think we all agree with that.
I definitely agree, yes.
And he also wanted to say the worst, I'm assuming that's what he's meaning, the worst Heisman winner in recent memory was Johnny Manziel.
As far as character, I couldn't argue. I mean, I couldn't disagree. He seemed like a little. You know what's funny? Matt Corral reminds me of a Johnny Manziel. I don't know, just off-putting, like my buddy Ian would say. It's just, I just cannot root for the guy. I'm sorry. No, really can't root for the guy. Derek, Any thoughts?
First off, I think the worst Heisman winner, just a product of a system, would have been Jason White. That had to be the most unathletic kid I've ever seen at Oklahoma. And what did he do afterwards? I mean, he didn't get a taste of the NFL. And usually they'll at least give the Heisman a shot, and he didn't get a cup of coffee. But I think Matt Corral just meets that Cali boy standard, and that's why him and Kiffin are a perfect couple. Because both of them have that Cali swag about them. And I mean, he's an incredible quarterback, and I could just see him in like one of those Pac-12 offenses back in the day at like Cal or UCLA, just slinging the ball all over the field, not getting touched, because he is a pretty boy.
Right. Or thinks he is. Man, going back, did y'all watch the interview with Josh Heupel after the loss? Man, Lindsey Mayo said 2 shows ago, I feel like he said, Tennessee fans are going to be very, very happy with who they decided to get. Looking at his composure and the way he addressed, he didn't go overboard. He seems very balanced, is what it does, because like you said, I'm with Mr. Cole. I told Brad, we were watching it together, I was like, man, there's a part of me who feels like they just need to call the game, because you can't act like that. I'm glad they didn't, obviously, because we could have won. But I'm like, dude, you can't just act like that. And I mean, you have your own cheerleaders jumping on, leaving. You have your own band leaving because they're getting hit by things. I mean, you can't do that. And at the end of the day, it's for the fans. So like, oh, okay, y'all want to act like that? We should cut it short. I feel like they should have called the game personally. But anyways, going back to the interview with Heupel, I like the way he acknowledged it, but he really said that's not the majority of our fans. That's not the majority of our fans. And for the most part, most of the day, man, our fan base was very electric, very supportive, and it was awesome. He's like that. To be honest, that was a big reason why I came to the UT, was because of the fan base and because of the energy and the history that is there. That's what really my thoughts. What's your thoughts?
Matt,
if you watch the Heupel show.
Go ahead, Lindsay. I'm apologizing.
Yeah, no. If you watch the Josh Heupel show today, it's really encouraging. He was obviously disappointed in the fans that threw trash on the field. He addressed that. Right. He said it's unacceptable. But when it comes to his football team, he says, guys, we got a good football team. We're doing a lot of good things here at UT, and I firmly believe it. We have Tim Banks has earned his money. Couldn't be happier for what Josh Heupel's doing. I think the recruits will see this, and who wouldn't want to play for an offense like Heupel's or a defense like Banks? We actually have some coaches that can coach and send guys to the NFL. Ultimately, that's what they want. Real fast, just another note. Gene Chizik made a comment on SEC Nation this morning, and he said, I assure you, nobody wants a part of Tennessee right now. He said they may be a little bit injured, but he said that is a phenomenal football team, and he made the comment that's the best 3-loss team in the country, and I would absolutely agree with that. Tennessee is probably the best 3-loss team in the country, so there's a lot to be excited about.
All right, go ahead, Brad. You got a comment?
Well, actually, Matt Green has decided to join us a little bit late, but hey, better late than never.
Right.
And he also agrees with Bill. He says Corral reminds him of Johnny Manziel, but and I know you guys already talked about this, but he goes, I don't know what I've missed. But what do you think about the scoop and score being called back, and do you think Milton goes third string?
I personally, first of all, we got Kevin. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. We'll get to you in a second. I feel it's kind of crowded. But, the scoop and score should have been a victory. Should have been a touchdown in my opinion. I didn't hear a whistle. The referee clearly was running with them. I don't really know what protocol is on that, word for word, but it's horse crap. I think we all agree there. Kevin, we'll get to Milton later. Kevin, go ahead and give us your thoughts since you're here.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Oh, okay, doing good.
Okay.
I was just gonna say my thoughts on the game are this, especially the end. Let's not all forget that 99% of the people who were acting like fools last night were students who were drunk and probably had been drinking the entire day. And they sat through a 4.5-hour, 5-hour football game. And by the end, all of those drunk fools were the ones responsible for throwing that stuff on the field. the majority of the people there were just into the game and behaving like they should be. It's just really unfortunate because those few students who acted like that, the media, when they get a hold of something like that, it's just going to paint Tennessee fans in that picture and not just the students. So that's really my thoughts on the end.
Oh, okay. Speaking of Milton, man, guys, I guess we haven't talked about it yet. Let's talk about, Derek, what was your thoughts on the very last play, man? How disappointed were you with him just to run around and to ultimately run out of bounds with 0 time left on the clock?
I'm going to put a face palm right here. And let me tell you about this, Jesse. I have no way to explain this better than this. My wife doesn't watch football, right? But she's watching the end of the game with me. And she's like, why did he just run out like that? And he didn't even really run. He just kind of didn't really commit to it. And I'm like, exactly. Anybody that knows anything about how the game ends, if you're in desperation, you throw it to the end zone and see what happens. At least give the guy a shot. He just literally went out of bounds, he didn't want to get hit. And I'm like, it reminded me of Alvin Kamara doing that one time. But I'm like, this is your quarterback. I guarantee somebody was like, don't take a sack. Don't do anything that ends the play. Extend the play as long as you can. I guarantee you, as long as Josh Heupel's coached offense in Ghoulish or whatever his name is, I guarantee they told that boy, extend the play if you have to. And he goes out of bounds.
Man, mind-boggling. I'd hate to be in his position, man, because that's so embarrassing. Lindsay, actually, you know what? I'm sorry, Kevin. Man, let's get Kevin if he's still on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, that was honestly the dumbest play I've seen since Chris Webber called timeout when he didn't have a timeout.
Right.
NCAA tournament. I have never seen a more. How do you not know how much time is on the clock and think you have time to get out of bounds? I honestly can't fathom. And if I'm Josh Heupel, you can't start him next week. My understanding is Hooker's probably not going to be able to play for the next week or two.
Oh, really?
You can't.
Thank you.
You can't start. You can't start Matt Milton after that. You can't.
I don't disagree. Wyatt, man, give us thoughts on that play.
Had that been the first play, Milton came in, I'd be like, okay, his head's out of it. He's cold. But the fact that play before he threw a decent throw, he knew the situation around him. He was aware of it. And I can tell you with 3 seconds left, there is not a single coach, even high school, other than maybe Derek Dooley, that would not remind the quarterback that, hey, you've got 3 seconds left in the game. It goes towards the end zone. You cannot take a sack. You cannot run out of bounds. It goes in the end zone. It's as simple as that. And it's just it's one of those Chris Webber plays, J.R. Smith in the NBA Finals, where it's what's going on?
Yes.
It's just a boneheaded mistake. And even Heupel's comments, someone asked him about it. They're like, oh, do you think Milton should have thrown the ball into the end zone? And
his evil look.
Heupel's like, oh, yeah, I think anyone in the stadium could have told you the ball should have gone in the end zone.
Everyone, he gave that guy an evil look. That is the dumbest comment I've ever. I hate that phrase, but that had to be. That's the look he gave him. Lindsay, I don't think you commented on that. Let's get your thoughts on it.
You almost had to think that maybe he thought he had more time left or something. He had 3 seconds. Every coach, every player told him that. I agree with Derek and Wyatt and Kevin.
The whole one.
One of the dumbest decisions. I say you at least have to chunk it up. You got to give them a chance. You can't win a game if you don't give them a chance. And right. Yeah, I kind of agree with Kevin that maybe you don't start them, but maybe. Do you really throw Harrison Bailey in there versus Alabama?
Man, everybody thinks we're going to lose anyways. Why not? And my thing is as much as Hendon Hooker has done a great job for us. Me being what really solidified yesterday, man, is he's funny. He's not very athletic. And I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, man. I'm like this. So he's not necessarily the guy. I feel like those draws and those quarterback keeps, you can play with Bailey. And he's, I guess most people think he's the purest passer, right? So, I think that's who you have to start, because I'm with Kevin, man. You can't trot him back out there. It's one of those situations like the guy, what's the old cliche? Again, stealing from my buddy Mario, hey, look like Tarzan, play like Jane. That's him. I hate to be so critical of a young man. I know earlier this year Kevin was talking about he's this age and he's doing some things. I'm seeing true freshmen and redshirt freshman quarterbacks playing way better than him. I think there's an it factor, right? And I don't feel like he has at the quarterback position. Yes, he has a cannon, yada, yada, yada. But, man, the guy can't just play. Like you said, a lot of it's cerebral, and his accuracy is off. So, I mean, I'm with you, Kevin, man. You can't trot him back out there. I mean, nobody's going to be mad at you for losing, 16 straight times to Alabama? I mean, just put Bailey in there. So let's see what happens.
I was going to say, put Bailey in there and just throw the ball all over the yard. You have nothing to lose.
Right.
Just chunk the ball all over the yard.
Right. Because surely, I mean, he's just as good as passer as the guy that was at Texas A&M, Calzado or something? I don't know his name. I mean, surely he's just as good as a passer as him, right? I don't think he's as athletic, but he can move a little bit. I mean, the reason why I was talking about Hendon Hooker, it's not like he's just an extreme athlete at all. So my thing is to put ratings on him. I mean, let's say his athletic or mobility is a 69. What's Bailey, a 74? I mean, to put it in the old NCAA days, I don't know. That's my opinion. Speaking, I guess, man, we've talked enough. Anything else y'all want to talk about on the game?
Jesse, I wanted to say one more thing, and I don't know, you guys may have talked about this, but it was something that I noticed in the game last night at the end is, does anybody know why Jacob Warren started to fall down before the first down marker? Because when I watched the replay 4 or 5 times, I still don't understand what made him fall down and give himself up so early to make it that close of a play anyways. Did you guys see that?
To me, it looked like he was he was hearing footsteps and he was trying to make a move where if a guy came under him, he could make like he didn't want to get stopped is where he caught the ball is what because I saw the same thing too. I thought he could have kept running with it. When I was thinking about it, I'm like, maybe he kind of was thinking someone was near him and he didn't want to get hit right where he caught it. So he kind of want to make a diving effort. But I sort of wondered that too when I was watching it.
Do you guys think Jawan Jennings goes down right there?
No.
Nah, man. But I mean, the fact that I'm going to say this, the fact that he made the catch, not necessarily the play, made the catch. I mean, that says a lot to me. I feel like I can't think of anything that he's dropped that he's like, man, you got to catch that ball. I mean,
it wasn't a perfect.
It was a team. Well, yeah. I mean, all that situations. I mean, it was just a team, dude. It was 4th and 26. Yeah. So
But that's what caused him to stumble a little bit. The ball was thrown a little bit, and that
and the fact that he went and got it. I mean, hey, kudos to him, man. I mean,
made it close.
It was very, very close. I mean, my thing, you know what? All that doesn't necessarily matter because we had that opportunity to win the game again, right? I mean, what's crazy about that is Tillman's catch or potential that drop, man, he could have caught. If it was earlier in the game, I think the Rogers or whatever his name is, the old Vandy quarterback, he made a good point, man. They've been playing he was just gassed. I mean, if it was in the first quarter, he probably would have been able to jump and catch that ball because it was in his hands, right?
Yeah. Also, if he waits a little bit longer to jump, I think he snags it too. But that was just kind of it was like a bang play. He was kind of jumping as he was that jump's hard to time. But I think if he maybe jumped just a little bit earlier, he comes down with that. But I don't really fault him for that because it was they played their hearts out and it was a bang play. Him jump through the air, and I think Milton honestly also put it in a place where only his guy could get it. That was, I think, actually one of the more of a decent throws you've seen from Milton. It wasn't a great throw, but it was one more of a decent throw from Milton.
Right. Man, I guess we've been talking long enough about this game. Anything else y'all want to add? We're going to talk a little bit about next week's game.
Do we have to?
Man, why not? I mean, I'm glad you said that. Now, here's what's bizarre about that. A bad Purdue team went to Iowa, the number 2 team in the nation. They're not extremely talented, but man, they're talented. They're well coached, historically speaking, especially this year. They've been dominating everybody they play and went in there and got drugged by Purdue. Now, granted, we know Alabama is not going to get drugged necessarily, not by Tennessee, maybe by Georgia, but not by Tennessee. My thing is it impossible for us to win? I feel like Texas A&M, granted, they have a lot more talent, a lot more depth than we do. Is it impossible for us to win the game?
Yeah. Without Hooker, I believe it is.
You believe so?
I
That's a good
I
point.
just think how gassed the team is going to be from this past game and like, that last second play sort of
Right.
along with Hooker not playing. I'm like you, Jesse. I don't think Hooker is just like this, savior of a quarterback. I think he's although I think he's better than this guy. I'm kind of looking at Hooker like he's earned the position. He's earned to be starting quarterback for sure. The way like Justin Worley, which I think Hooker is way better than Justin Worley. But like 2013, when Justin Worley came in and beat South Carolina, he obviously earned that starting position at quarterback. That's how I kind of feel like Hooker. I don't think Hooker is some great quarterback, Heisman quarterback, but Hooker's definitely earned the job. But with him gone, and Heupel's probably sitting in his office like, my God, I've got to start one of these morons behind them at quarterback. Like, which I think Bailey may be a quarterback. I just don't think he fits the system. I think Heupel, he's probably wondering what he's going to do come starting quarterback time on Saturday.
Well,
Hey, Wyatt,
Yeah.
would you agree that outside of quarterback, though, he's probably more worried about his offensive line than he is quarterback at this point?
Yeah. Oh, big time. Because before you came on, Kevin, we were talking about, I mean, it was that first half. It was like the D linemen were in Hooker's face every play. Like we couldn't get anything going. Run game or pass game.
Right. Man, so I'm sorry. Derek, we ain't heard what your thoughts. What's our chances next week?
I don't want to say slim and none, but I will say what hurt us worse, I think, besides just the things that Wyatt mentioned, the injuries. But, I mean, Kirk Ferentz is not Nick Saban, and the worst thing that happened to us was Texas A&M beating them, because the one thing we've seen about Nick Saban constantly, after a loss, he refocuses his team. And when he said our goals are still right there in front of us, we can achieve all of our goals, he's going to have those guys laser focused to just absolutely embarrass us next week, because they want to make sure they stay in this race, and they still have that playoff, and they have the AFC. I started to say the AFC West because they feel like they should be in the NFL sometimes, but the SEC West, they're going to absolutely be out for blood for us.
All right, since we obviously lost some lighting, man, a couple bulbs went out, right? I'm just joking. Man, give us your predictions on it. 52-14. What is it? What's your predictions? Derek?
Oh, first me? Okay.
Yeah, since we got you there already.
Yeah, so I guess these Alabama defenses aren't what they have been, but I'm thinking somewhere around 47 to 13, something like that. It's without Hooker. If Hooker played, then I might think we might get to like 24 or something, because their defense ain't great, but I just have no faith in the other guys. And maybe with Evans it helps, but I think that's a two-headed combo. Hooker and Evans can feed off each other, and I don't know that Milton can. I haven't seen it.
Okay. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Derek. I know we're going to run out of time here. Lindsey, man, what's your thoughts? What's your predictions on the fight?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what was said previous. If Hooker plays, I think we can score 24, maybe even 31. Alabama's defense is, their secondary, they struggle without Cooper Mays, without Cade Mays, and without Hooker. Heupel's smart enough to scheme up 14, 18, 17 points, something like that. There's too many unknowns. If I had to guess right now, 45-17 Alabama.
45-17. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Kevin, you still there with us? Go ahead and give us your predictions.
Yeah. So, wow, you just stole my score. I'm going to have to come up with a different score now. So, I don't think Hooker plays. And based on that, I'm going to say 42-7 would be the score for this game. Now, I would say if Hooker was healthy and playing and Evans was healthy and playing, you're looking at like a 35-21 or 38-21 type of game. But I just don't see it, man.
Well, Matt Green's got a lot more faith than all y'all. He's saying 46-21.
46-21. That's not really a lot more faith. But anyways.
It's an extra touchdown.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, that's not a lot more faith. I thought you said he's thinking we're going to win or something. We haven't got to Wyatt. Wyatt, man, what's your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, if we had a fully healthy team, I think we could probably keep it close, lose by about 2 touchdowns, something like that. But with offensive line, quarterback, I think Heupel might have a few play calls. He gets something going, some big plays, get a few points going real quick that may be successful. But I see us scoring 17 points at most. Alabama, they'll probably score, 42, 49 points or something like that.
Every bit of. So I guess we all agree we're going to get drugged next week. Man, we only have really one entertaining game besides that in the league, and that's the 3:30 game with LSU at Ole Miss. I mean, thoughts on that? I feel like LSU wins because I thought I told y'all they were going to beat Florida, and they did. And because they're finally running power and running counter. So I feel like, man, they're going to – and, like, LSU just has – obviously, throughout the years, they do not like Florida. They don't like Ole Miss. I feel like they beat Ole Miss, man. I don't know what the score is. But, Derek, since you're using light, man, what's your thoughts on that game? Are you going to watch it, number one? Number two, who do you think wins?
Who's at home?
LSU at Ole Miss.
I guess I'll take Ole Miss. If it was at Death Valley, I'd take – and it was a night game. But if afternoon – is it Vaught Hemingway?
It's at Ole Miss. Yeah,
I'm taking Ole Miss. As much as it's too soon to like give them any credence to Lane Kiffin's bunch, I think they're going to be too hot to handle.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Orgeron will finish out the season,
right?
Which I think Kevin and I called a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, I think LSU probably, if they were in Death Valley, would have a better chance. I'd say 45-30 Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss easily, but mainly because LSU gives up. With the news that their coach is not coming back and they're not in Death Valley.
Man, I think that's going to work contrary, just like it did this week. But Kevin, man, go ahead. I don't think did I already ask you?
No.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
So I actually think that Orgeron's one of those coaches that coaches better when his back's against the wall.
He's definitely that.
So I think LSU is going to win easily because what I saw from Ole Miss last night, I 100% believe this, and this is not my orange-colored glasses. You guys know I'll criticize us when we need to be criticized. I'm telling you, if we have a healthy team last night and we have all of our starters, we win by 2 touchdowns last night. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
The only reason Ole Miss won that game was because of the disaster. We lost Cade Mays on the 3rd offensive play, and we got sacked about 4 times in the 2nd quarter and couldn't get our offense going. And what that did was it made our defense wear down. So I don't think Ole Miss is really that good. They beat Arkansas, but Arkansas has proven they've got flaws. So I think LSU is going to win the game by 2 touchdowns.
Okay. Well, like I said, we definitely agree, and we didn't get Wyatt.
I think it could. I could see both sides because it depends on where the team's head is at playing this game. But I think Ed Orgeron does what he does at USC. Especially, I'm gonna have to see the details. I'm pretty sure it's LSU wanted him gone. That's what happened. They worked it out. But I think Ed Orgeron is going to try to go out with a bang with this season to prove to LSU. I should still be here and stuff because when he was the interim at USC, when they fired Kiffin, they finished the season like 10-3 or something like that. Like he finished it great. So that's what I think is going to happen. But I could also see it going very poorly if he doesn't have his players' heads into it. It all depends on how his guys' team motivated about the situation at hand.
Right.
But with that said, I'm going to go with I think LSU wins.
All right. So we only got one person thinking Ole Miss wins. But I do want to say this, Kevin. I think to reply a little bit back, we're way out of time. Man, we didn't talk about Ole Miss dropped a lot of passes that could have been potential at least 2 that could have been potential touchdowns. And who knows if that broke it loose. So, I mean, I know you said that you felt like Tennessee was hands down, like you said, all the players, hands down a better team. I think the fact that Neyland Stadium was the old school Neyland Stadium made a huge difference in that game. Those 2 to 3 drop passes that would have been a touchdown, I think would have took a lot of the air out of not only the stadium but out of the team itself. So, I mean, so it goes with the game of football, right? So, man, go ahead, Kevin.
We muffed a punt. We muffed a punt, so you could do the what ifs all day long.
All day long, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
So I just believe that Ole Miss is really, really bad on defense, and I think a healthy Tennessee, basically the same Tennessee that showed up against South Carolina in the first half, I think we win the game with no problem. And by no problem, I mean 2 touchdowns. I really don't believe Ole Miss is a very good football team. Bama exposed them. Bama got exposed by Texas A&M. I just don't think Ole Miss is that great, to be honest with you. They've got a really good offense, and they've got an awful defense.
Right. Okay. All right, man. Well, time will tell. Like you said, that's all what ifs and maybe. To counter what you were saying, I mean, if we had the same team we had against South Carolina, man, that's what ifs and maybe. But I agree. I don't know if they're a terrible team, man, because I tell you, you have to. Good teams find a way to win, don't they? They find a way to win in a hectic environment, and at the end of the day, they won the ball game.
Hey, I didn't say they're terrible. I said their defense is terrible.
I'm sorry. Yes, their defense. Man, their defense is not as bad as it was last year. I mean, they've made improvements. I mean, they definitely look pretty good decent against us. So we'll see. We'll see. I do think LSU will win that game. But, man, we went an hour over. I'm sorry, over an hour. That's what I should have said. But go ahead and cue that music for us. Man, go Vols. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us, taking the time out.
Thanks for having us, Jesse.
Yeah, we'll see y'all next week.
Go Vols.
Peace. Hey, it's funny. They know we went off quick. Hey, they know we went out late because dude, they all jumped off. They all